podcast.
Touchdown Ram! Recovered by the Chargers. Touchdown UCLA!
With USC great and NFL stud, Frostee Rucker.
The Trojans back in front!
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
What's up, Los Angeles? Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the LA Football Podcast here on the LA Football Network, LAFBnetwork.com, your destination for Los Angeles football. We are always on the Believe Podcast Network as well. We are everywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, everywhere you listen. We are also on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all at LAFB Network. Fantastic show for you today. Before we get into it, always brought to you by BetOnline.Ag. Hopefully made some money. March Madness. I certainly did not. Lost a lot of money at BetOnline.Ag. So I gotta head back there and try to get back into it. But if you're a golf fan, Masters just wrapped up day 2, heading into the weekend. Who's going to win that green jacket? You can bet, live bet, all BetOnline.Ag. NBA, NHL, baseball's back. You know, sports pretty much are in full swing yet again. There's reality shows you can bet on. So head to BetOnline.Ag. There's a 50% welcome bonus. You can do it desktop. You can do it on mobile. Anywhere, just head there, sign up, 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline.Ag, your wagering experience. So, as mentioned, great show today. Going to be joined by two gentlemen that used to run, how do I want to say this? They ran a Chargers podcast under a different name. Their names are Dan Wolkenstein and Jake Hefner. They recently have joined us here on the LA Football Network and are rebranding that Chargers podcast to Chargers Unleash under our umbrella. So it'll be our Chargers show. Awesome dudes, extremely excited to welcome them on to our network. And today we're just going to talk a little bit about, you know, their journey to where they got, their journey to how they got here, why they joined us, and kind of their plans for the future. And then obviously we'll get into a little bit of a Chargers talk as well. So going to keep this intro short and sweet. Sometimes I ramble a little bit too much. So we're just going to jump right in to the interview. Before we do, real quick, other sponsor of the show is Sunday Scaries. I know 2020 was a scary year. 2021 even has been a little scary. But if you don't relax well and you need to check out my buddies at Sunday Scaries. Crazy life is just hard to shut off the brain sometimes and chill. I know it's stressful out there. It's the worst. But if you do your homework, because I did mine, you can find Sunday Scaries, which are delicious, vitamin-boosted CBD gummies. They have other products as well, but that's kind of their main go-to. They become a must-have in my daily routine, and they should in yours too. Give it about 20 minutes, pop 2 gummies, and you are in full max relax mode. So they help you take off the edge and maintain composure and live, as they say, scare-free. There's no risk to buy. The company offers a 100% lifetime money-back guarantee. If the product's not for you, which I'm sure it will be, but if it's not, that's okay. You'll get your money back. Sunday Scaries is in the stress-relieving business, not the stress-causing business. So just to prove how much I believe in them, I've got a 25% off bonus for you. Visit sundayscaries.com. That's sundayscaries.com. Use my promo code LAFB for that 25% off. Once again, that's the promo code LAFB for 25% off checkout at sundayscaries.com. Join me, join their squad, and take the edge off. All right. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this great conversation with Dan and Jake. Hope you all enjoy. All right, everyone. So as mentioned in the intro, excited to welcome on 2 guests for the show today on the LA Football Podcast, but also 2 new colleagues. Well, I think they've been colleagues for a while because, you know, in Chargers Twitter and everything, we all get along and kind of work together. But now we're officially intertwined. So Dan Wolkenstein, Jake Hefner, they are doing the Chargers Unleashed podcast here on the LA Football Network. But fellas, excited to be working with you. Excited to talk to you tonight here on the LA Football Podcast. So I'll instead, there's not that awkward pause. Dan, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Ryan, how are you? I am great. Thank you for the opportunity. We are pumped and excited. Cannot wait to get this Chargers Unleashed podcast out to everyone. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have so much fun with LA Football Network. Let's get rocking.
Absolutely. Jake, what about you, man? How you doing today? How's your Friday going?
Stoked, man. Happy for the weekend, but more happy to be on here partnering with you. It's a new day. It's new banner. Dan and I are stoked about this. We were stoked before the ink was even dry. We're ready to roll.
Yeah, Love to hear it. So I love doing this because that whole like awkward pause I mentioned. Any podcaster knows if you have more than one guest on, you've learned after a few times to actually single someone out instead of just saying, how's everyone doing? And then there's like no one jumps in and it's like that. Okay, someone say something.
Cricket.
Yeah. So, well, I think a lot of people that listen to my show, me and Frostee's show, obviously everyone can see Frostee's not here today, but he will be back next week. But I think a lot of people that listen to our show, listen to your guys' previous show as well. You guys built a nice following there. We don't need to go into any details. I divulge what happened, but just kind of walk everyone through that doesn't know you, kind of your guys' background, how you got into, Chargers podcasting, Chargers writing, and then now obviously to where we are today, now working together. So Dan, I'll start with you. Kind of what's your background and how you got into this?
Yeah. So background, I've been a Chargers fan for almost my entire life. Grew up in San Diego. I've been here watching all of the pains, all these successes, and been wanting to do podcast sports writing for a while. And then a few years ago, kind of decided to kind of jump in and have been doing that, connected with Jake. And we have had, an amazing ride. We've had a ton of special guests. We've been able to cover a lot of really, really fun moments for Chargers, talked to some amazing people. We've talked to Dan Fouts. We've talked to Chris Harris Jr. I mean, we've had a lot of fun conversations. So Jake and I are super excited. But for myself, I love talking Chargers. I love bringing optimism when I can, but I also try to be authentic as well, because I think both Jake and I kind of pride ourselves on just bringing it to you real, bringing it to you straight, but try to do it in a fun way.
Yeah, love it. Jake, before I jump to you, Dan, you said you grew up in like San Diego area. Did you have, how do I want to say this? When they moved, was that an issue for you, or was it easy for you to really, still remain a fan and whatnot?
To be honest, it actually was easy for me. So I actually grew up in San Diego, and then I moved out to the East Coast for 5 years. And it was when I was out there that they actually moved. But I was a Chargers fan while being inundated by Patriots fans for 5 years. And so for me, I was a Chargers fan far away, and being able to come back and see the Chargers get to go to a brand new stadium that is state of the art, being able to have a whole new city with a whole new demographic, everybody being able to kind of come in and join in on this kind of charge to kind of take over LA. I was pumped. I was excited. It's a new beginning for the team. And I think that's what they needed. It's a fresh start.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I've said many times, I had no really ties to them in San Diego. I had the guys who did the Bolted podcast. I don't know if you guys have talked to them or listened to that yet. Did a really good job, 6-part kind of documentary series about the move. And they kind of said, and this is what I thought too, but they said, honestly, if the Chargers would have just moved, fans would have been upset, obviously, for losing the team. But the fact they moved to LA, whereas many San Diegans kind of just don't really like LA, it's like a rival, whereas people in LA love San Diego. It's a vacation for us to go to the weekend. But they said that was kind of more, I think, why there's still 5 years later so much resentment. But I'm glad to hear you were one of the few. And obviously you live more in LA now, and a lot of us moved in LA, and it's been years. And so we're just happy the Bolts are building a new brand here. And I think they're doing awesome things in this offseason so far. And we'll get into that later in the show. And, Justin Herbert obviously is probably, outside of Mahomes, might be the number one quarterback on most GM's list to start a franchise around, which is pretty exciting for this Chargers team. So, but Jake, yeah, tell me your background, man. Talk to me. What's on the tea leaves of why you're a Bolt fan?
So the better part of 25 years, been watching the Chargers, and much like how Dan said, you go through a lot of the ups and the downs, but, past that point around 2006, when the Chargers had LT and they kind of went on their consecutive postseason runs through about 2011, that was the good Chargers. But for the majority of the past 20 years, you've just always unfortunately had heartbreak. So of course, you don't want to keep venting that to the same people. So you want to start venting it out to other people, find a platform. So I actually got into writing about the Chargers back, I want to say it was in 2009. And started it up from there, and then eventually had, when they were still in San Diego, started on a couple of podcasts down in that area, and then of course climbed up into the last venture where I ended up meeting with Dan, and now it's been great.
That's awesome. Yeah, glad to hear it. And that's kind of everyone kind of in some way, shape, or form has some kind of the same journey or whatnot of getting into this industry, and so I'm pumped. We cross paths. And I'm pumped that now we're obviously our paths are intertwined, and I think we're going to create something great here. Obviously, our show, me and Frostee's, covers LA football as a whole, and then you guys will be obviously our Chargers brand, our Chargers specific. So excited what you guys are going to do. I think it's going to be a lot of fun and some great things, and we're just getting started. So let's make this thing great, yeah.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
let's have a blast, man. Let's have a blast. I know it's going to be kind of an LA Rams and Chargers thing, but hey, we'll put up the fight.
Friendly rivalry. It'll work.
Let me ask you guys this. I'll start with you, Jay, because I think it's very different how Rams fans view Chargers as opposed to Chargers fans view Rams. And I could be wrong, but like, what's your thought, Jake, on the Rams? Like, are you just like, hey, we're in the same city, let's coexist, let's have a fun rivalry, or is it like more of a hate thing?
No, I'm not one of the ones that like actually gets angry about it. And
Mhm.
maybe that's just for the standpoint that I never had anything against the team. In Dan's argument, I actually may have more of an issue with the Chargers actually leaving San Diego and moving to LA, because I actually wanted them to stay in San Diego, believe it or not. But as far as the Rams go, Sean McVay has orchestrated a great team, and I'm excited to see what Matthew Stafford is going to do for them. It's not so much of a rebuild; it's just retooling. You know, you get some personnel, a couple pieces in here and there, and they're going to find their way back. And I'm excited to see what McVay is going to do after after basically jettisoning a quarterback that was there before he even arrived. So now basically to see what he's going to do with his guy and now to be able to take them to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan, you got the same sentiment, you think, or a little different?
Yeah, it kind of seems like a big brother, little brother kind of mentality where the little brother is kind of trying to hang out with the big brother, and the Rams seem like the big brother or trying to be the big brother of the fans, where they're wanting their brother kind of at like a long arm's length. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. I think the Chargers have done a really good job of kind of cementing themselves in with the market. They're doing well, kind of trying to do a little outreach. I think they're building things the right way. I know we got Brandon Staley from the Rams, which was an awesome hire, which we're excited for here. But no, I think for the most part, Chargers fans are kind of looking to build something in LA with the Rams and are eager for the opportunity to compete for a presence there. I don't see the hatred as much that way as it does. It at least feels like it is being received. But again, perception is reality for everyone.
Yeah.
I feel it's always from the Ram standpoint. It's like 2.5 Men, where Charlie had the nice house in Malibu. Yeah. And then Alan had to come and live with him and basically just ended up staying there for the better part of the entire series run. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect way to put it. And it's funny, since I cover both teams, I see both sides, because obviously we engage with both fan bases. And yeah, I feel like most Charger fans are almost thankful because, they get this beautiful stadium for $1 a year rent, and, they get to inhabit in it and build their own brand of their thing. And all the Rams fans are just like, Chargers go back to San Diego, we don't want them here, yada, yada, yada. So it's always a fascinating thing. But yeah,
it feels a little bitter from Chargers fan side. It feels like folks just want us to go away. And we like to say a lot of times that we're just living rent free or living for $1 per year, but that's okay. We'll take it.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? I mean, it's a smart business move. So, and I will say, and I pound the table all the time, but the fan base, I think, has always been maybe smaller but strong. But in this last, I feel like year and a half, I think it has blossomed here in LA, and it's only getting better and bigger. And that's because a lot of the football moves they've made, but also off the field stuff they've done in the community. I talked, I think, a few shows ago, just something as small as when they did their little logo release and having the little emoticons with like the bolt that has the lightning thing, and they have that like on the Ferris wheel at Santa Monica Pier, all over LA, all these different things. I think those little tiny details are actually building the brand so well. Yeah, exactly. There's little smiley faces we got. So I think what they're doing is awesome. I think they're really adapting to the market here, and they're looking towards growing long term and not one of these 1-2 year fixes that so many people wanted them to do. So overall, I think the future is bright for both the Chargers and Rams. And, we're in such a big community, we can both coexist. That's what I talk about a lot with media too, is there's so many different great media outlets, podcasts, creators, and everyone wants to view it as such a harsh competition, which obviously we're all competing, but I think we can all coexist and build each other up and be successful. And I think that's what these two football teams can do too. So that being said, Dan, I'll start with you. Let's talk a little Chargers ball. I know it's at this point almost feeling repetitive how much everyone's talked about the offseason, what so far. So we'll run through it rather quickly and then maybe talk a little bit of the future. I know we'll probably have you guys on and talk all the time now that we're working so closely together. But Dan, just let's look real quick at free agency. What was in your opinion, the most important move, whether it was signing someone, re-signing someone, or not signing someone? What was just, I think, the most important move the Chargers made so far in free agency?
If you talk to any Chargers fan, anyone who's covered this team, Justin Herbert is the most important part of this franchise, and being able to see how much he was bruised and battered all year last year and able to prevail still and have the rookie of the year that he had. Number one priority is protect your franchise and protect Justin Herbert. And for them to go out and arguably sign the best center in the market, someone who is working for Aaron Rodgers, that was huge. That was probably the biggest move that we could have done other than potentially a left tackle and right tackle. But that being said, also a big one that probably goes underrated for folks outside of the LA market is the re-signing of Michael Davis. We let go of Casey Hayward, who has been a strive for us for a long time. He did great. He had a step back last year. But without Michael Davis, this cornerback room would be very, very small. And the success that we'd have would be really hard to come by. So re-signing him was big. I would say those would probably be the two, with the re-signing of Michael Davis, as well as the bringing in of Corey Linsley to kind of bring in that presence, that leadership, that swag, but also just the IQ across the offensive line. We just have had a gruesome last probably 5-10 years of just not good offensive line play. And so Corey Linsley coming in, Matt Filer coming in, those are probably some of the more important things that I've seen for this team.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm not trying to name drop here, but I'm going to name drop. I literally was, before we jumped on, just texting with Nick Hardwick. And it's funny that the Chargers now have arguably the best center since Nick Hardwick. So it's about time that, and hopefully, that's what I feel like. I'm very cautiously optimistic because this time last year, I was extremely excited too after signing Brian Bulaga, trading for Trey Turner, and signing Chris Harris Jr. And we saw how that went last year with just the injuries. So hopefully, as long as everyone stays healthy, this was a great free agent signing class. I think it isn't getting talked about as much nationally just because A, it's the Chargers, B, it was mainly just the offensive line and no like splashy hires. But I think they did exactly what they needed to do in order to improve and build upon what Justin Herbert's doing. So, Jake, piggybacking off that, Dan mentioned Michael Davis. Do you view him as of right now before the draft as the number one corner, or do you still think Chris Harris kind of holds that role, or how do you view Mike Davis going into the 2021 season?
Does Mike Davis have the capabilities of becoming a number one corner? Yes, I could see him translating to that. Is he ready to do that now? No, I wouldn't say so. And as Dan said, that was a huge priority for us to re-sign because you lost Casey Hayward. You were on the brink of possibly losing Michael Davis, and you had lost Rayshon Jenkins in your secondary at safety as well. So potentially you could have lost 3 starters in your secondary, which would have just been catastrophic for this team to rebuild from. Michael Davis has grown every single year that he's been with this team. He has progressively gotten better. He is a bigger physical type of corner. I'm excited to see what Ronaldo Hill is going to do with him in this defense, especially with Brandon Staley still calling the plays. So I think if there's anybody that can unlock his full potential, especially with what you've seen from Brandon Staley get out of Jalen Ramsey a year ago, I'm really excited to see what he's going to do.
Oh, 100%. And I think a great comparison, but even a better comparison is what he did with Darius Williams and Troy Hill. And that's where we'll see the huge growth because Derwin James, if healthy, will be that Jalen Ramsey kind of role. I know one plays safety, one plays corner, but if you watch a lot of Rams games, and that's what I love about covering both these teams and the fact that Brandon Staley went to the Chargers, so I got to still cover him. Plus I have that prior knowledge because I've been on the Brandon Staley train for since the offseason last year, once they signed him. Everyone knows that watching this, I'm a Broncos fan, and Brandon Staley came from the Broncos, so I knew him back then. So I was just all hyped about this guy, and then seeing what he did with the Rams and what schematically he did. I cannot wait for you guys and for everyone else just to get to training camp, just to see how fun he has with his defense and how different these defensive looks are. Because Derwin James, if healthy, he's going to have, I think, an all-pro season, which he's an all-pro player anyway, but he will have 100% an all-pro season because of how Brandon Staley will use him. And that will take the pressure off of Mike Davis and Chris Harris Jr. to be able to just play in their own skill set and not asked to do too much. I don't know how much you guys talked about this throughout your podcast last year. And I don't want to, bag on too badly on, the defense last year and defensive coordinator Gus Bradley. But I think a lot of times he kind of hung his players out to dry. Like he would not shift away from anything he was doing. He'd put guys on an island. I think Casey Hayward can still have a good career, but last year was not it. It didn't replicate, I think, what he could do at his age. And Gus Bradley basically just kind of said, this is what you've been good at, so you need to be good at this still. Brandon Staley doesn't coach like that. So he's going to put these guys in the best position. And Dan, go ahead. I see you itching to jump in. Get in there.
No. I was thinking, like, I'm imagining I had Five Guys burgers this past week, and Brandon Staley's defense seems like Five Guys where you can load it up with literally anything. He has all kinds of stuff you can put on it. And Gus Gus Bradley's defense was like the plain cheeseburger from like McDonald's, where it's just like bun, meat, maybe cheese, and
Let's
you're
call
done.
it Whataburger. We like to hate on Texas here. Let's call it Whataburger.
Yes, okay, Whataburger, which I'm not a fan of. Sorry.
Yeah.
It was kind of bad, and Jake and I talked about this so much last season, where we're sitting watching Gus Bradley and his defense doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, and watching it consistently come down to bad mistakes, bad coaching, bad decision making, and just vanilla, the plain cheeseburger. And it's not because of the players, it's because of the positions that they are in.
Mhm.
And we talked about personnel. I mean, there were players that should have been playing so much more than they were last year, which is why Jake and I both have been pounding the Uchenna Nwosu train this year.
Yep.
He's going to shine, I believe, in this new system. And
Oh, yeah.
Brandon Staley, I think, is going to be so refreshing for this fan base. Jake and I were talking about it when we were looking into coaching options. Early on, we discovered the Brandon Staley. I don't think it was as early as you, Ryan. But once I learned about him, I started doing some homework. And then as we we're kind of getting more into the thick of the coaching interviews, Jake and I were talking about it. I said, I think Brandon Staley is the most innovative option that we can have for this coaching staff, for this team, bar none. And when we ended up signing him, I was doing cartwheels in the back room. I was loving it. And I think the Chargers fans have started to see what he can do. And he's won over the fan base already. The way he presents himself and owns the room when he's having conversations with reporters and beat writers, he cares. And he's so smart. And you know this more than we do. And I think it's just going to be exciting to see what he does with his team.
Yeah. Yeah. One fun thing I've noticed is I watch a lot of press conferences and obviously watch all the Rams and the Chargers ones, but then other teams too, just to kind of compare. And I watched what was it? Yesterday's Brandon Staley press conference? Yeah.
Yesterday.
No, not yesterday's, but the one prior. So what was it? 2 weeks ago or whatever. I had watched some other teams. I think I watched the Vikings, the Broncos, the Rams, and one other one. The average of those four press conferences with the head coaches was about 13 to like 17 minutes. Brandon Staley's was an hour and a half. So that just shows like how passionate he is, how knowledgeable he is, how much he cares and loves it. And I talked all year. I didn't want him to leave the Rams because I thought he was such a good fit, him and McVay. But if he were to leave, which I knew he was going to get a job, I was like, by week 3, I was like, this guy will be a head coach next year. If he was going to leave, I wanted to be with the Chargers so I can still cover him and he can stay here in LA. So slam dunk hire for them. Home run, empty net goal, whatever you want to call it. I just can't wait to get into it. So let's turn a little bit to the draft quickly. I know you guys have probably done a lot of draft stuff, right? On your episodes and stuff, got into it?
Oh, yes, we have.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the sentiment among most of us writers and podcasters at the Chargers is that, it should be tackle or bust for the Chargers at 13. But, corner is a need as well to add depth there. Now there's kind of people creeping up with maybe an edge rusher gets taken there and they add a tackle in the second round. Let's just talk a little bit about, what you guys think they should do, what you think they will do, some different scenarios. We'll just have fun with it, go back and forth a little bit. Dan, I'll start with you.
Well, I got to say, I am not on the offensive tackle or bust train. I am on the train that's like right next to it, that's waving maybe at the next stop. I might jump on, who knows. The Chargers did a lot to improve their offensive line this season already, and they still have a glaring hole at the tackle position. Mm-hmm. That being said, I am very, very much in the mindset of you get the best player available that can impact your team immediately. And at 13, you're going to see 5 quarterbacks potentially go before you. So someone is going to fall. Mm-hmm. Now, is it going to be a Slater or a Sewell that comes to you? I doubt it. I don't think they're going to last to 13. Do I want to stretch and then get someone who might be kind of an offensive tackle tier 2, tier 3 at 13? Or do I get like a bona fide CB1 in like a JC Horn or Patrick Surtain? In my opinion, I'm going best player available. And that doesn't necessarily mean offensive tackle or 13. I might get blowback for that, but I think there's a very deep offensive tackle class. After you get from Sewell and Slater, that group is pretty big for that next crop. And I think at 47, where the Chargers pick the second round, there are going to be options there.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I'll comment in a second, but Jake, I'll let you go first. So what's your thoughts on that? Do you agree? Are you more on the tackle train or what are you feeling at 13?
I mean, I'm more on the tackle train. I think as Dan mentioned, for as much as they've done to totally revamp this offensive line this season, with the exception of Bulag, I mean, they got rid of 4 of their starting offensive linemen from last year, and you've done a good job in free agency thus far with Matt Filer, Corey Lindsley, Ria Boucher, and now you still have to look for a left tackle. So who's going to protect the blind side of your franchise? To me, I get Dan's reasoning as far as, the lucky part about this is we're talking about 2 positions that are actually very deep for this year's draft class. So you could rotate it however you want it, whether you want to go corner first and pick up an offensive tackle in the second round, or if you want to stick to the priority of what your message has been thus far as protecting Justin Herbert. Then to me, I think, okay, go out and get the best tackle that's available. And for me, Carolina threw a monkey in that wrench when they obviously traded for Sam Darnold. So they're not going to be looking at quarterback anymore. And most likely they'll end up taking the best offensive lineman available. So that leaves 1 less for us at 13. So the realistic option right there is Christian Darrisaw. And to me, as far as Dan's talking about, the best player available, he's being careful. He's watching his mouth, because there's certain other players that he would possibly take at 13 that are not corner or offensive tackle. I'm not going to embarrass him though.
I want to do it.
As far as offensive tackle goes, it looks like it could be Christian Darrisaw at 13, which I would be perfectly fine with, or possibly even a trade down, which I've been waiting for it to happen for the last 20 years of the Chargers, to just make a trade down, for crying out loud, acquire some more picks. There's a lot of holes on this team that needs to be filled. So, there's going to be a lot of options. And honestly, as Dan was saying, if it was JC Horn at 13, wouldn't be displeased with that whatsoever. That's a huge need to fill in the secondary. And then you possibly come around in the second round and grab one of those offensive tackles. But the Chargers have options, which is not a bad thing to have.
Yeah. A few points on that. I think I am definitely on the more tackle train, but I absolutely agree with what you're as well saying, Dan. I don't want to pigeonhole it just that, especially if we see 3 or even 4 tackles go. Yeah, you're not going to sit at 13 and take, the 5th best tackle, which I don't know if we'll see that. I mean, I think for sure we'll see the top 2 go in the top 10. I saw Todd McShay's mock draft, and he had like Sewell falling to the Chargers at 13, which I don't know in what realm or reality that happens. He had Sewell and Slater going 12 and 13. Don't think that's going to happen. I think both of them will be gone in the top 10. But yeah, I agree with you that I don't want to see them pigeonhole themselves, because that's when you start getting in trouble as franchises when you do that. And I think as important it is to protect Justin Herbert, I think the great thing that he showed us last year is that he's allowing them not to pigeonhole them. If he was the rookie of the year, threw for 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns with the offensive line they had, it's not like if they don't draft a left tackle at 13, all of a sudden he's going to be this bust. They can't, obviously you want to protect his health, but it's not like he's going to all of a sudden just like not know how to throw a football anymore. So I think he proved to them that he's good enough to get by with a second rate left tackle, because they made every other position better. And then now, with this new offensive coordinator, new scheme, hopefully they can kind of scheme better if they don't address it at 13. The other thing I'd like to see, if they do go best player available, whether it's a corner, whether it is an edge player, maybe they get one of the top edge guys to pair with Joey Bosa, which, they say if you have your quarterback, the next most important position besides left tackle is edge position. So if they do that, and we see Darrisaw or Elijah Vera Tucker, who I rate as a tackle, I know most teams have him as a guard, Samuel Cosme, some of these other tackles sitting there still at 20, 21, I would be happy if the Chargers traded back into the first and then got one of those guys. So you get a top tier edge or a top tier corner at 13, trade back in like they did last year for Kenneth Murray to that 23 sweet spot, basically meaning all you got to do is give up your second and third. So you're not like mortgaging the future. You're basically just losing your third round pick, in my opinion. And then you can get back and get one of those tackles. So I see laughter from the peanut gallery. Give me some thoughts, Jake.
Ryan, I just don't know if I can stand to sit through that again as we had to sit through it last year, because I get it. Kenneth Murray had a fantastic rookie season. I think he's going to be a great addition to this defense for years to come if he continues to produce like that. But sitting through rounds 2 and 3, watching all of these great players go off the board was just like, it was just like slow torture. It was tough.
Imagine
because we knew what we had to do. And as far as filling holes on the offensive line, didn't do it. There was plenty of offensive linemen that went off the board in day 2, and we couldn't do anything. I don't know if I could stomach that again. I really don't.
I feel that. Yeah. Yeah. Picture being a Rams fan. You sit through a lot of drafts with nothing.
Touche.
Yeah. Dan, your thoughts?
No, There are several players that I could see the Chargers going after at 13, and you might be seeing folks throwing in the towels and being all crazy with their pitchforks. But I don't necessarily think that folks are focusing on the bigger picture. Like you said, Justin Herbert had arguably the best rookie season of any quarterback in history, with one of the worst offensive lines in NFL history.
Yeah.
The Chargers offensive line is going to be better. There's no way I don't see it getting any worse. Mm-hmm. If you're able to get someone like a Kyle Pitts, which there's no way, he kind of like a seawall, he's not going to be there at 13. But if he's going to be there, or maybe someone like a Jalen Waddle, who could be like our Tyreek Hill, or someone like a Michael Parsons, or someone like a Jeremiah Omosu-Kamara, there are some playmakers that you put on this team, and they are immediately dynamic, and they will transform the look and feel of this team. Especially if you give someone like Brandon Staley some pieces like that to work with, that's a big deal. Do I want to see the Chargers reach for an offensive tackle 4-5 when there's a bona fide blue chip player like Micah Parsons on the board? No. I'm sprinting with Micah Parsons over those offensive tackle 4 or 5 because he could do so much more for this team. And the value that you get for that pick, character issues aside, we'll see what happens there. As a football player, you can't get more value than that at 13. Mm-hmm. And like you said, trade back in mid-20s, you can probably get Vera Tucker, you could probably get a Cosme, maybe able to get the number 2 or 3 guard in the draft. There's so many options, but to pigeonhole yourself and to make yourself go for an awesome tackle and go just because of need, when you have corner, when you have edge, it doesn't seem like smart GM to me. It doesn't.
Yeah. I feel you. And the one thing I'll say about Micah Parsons, and if I'm wrong here, I will be the first. If the Chargers draft Micah Parsons, I will be the first to stand up here, admit I was completely wrong. But based on what I saw from Brandon Staley last year, and I hate the word devalue because it sounds disrespectful, but I can't think of one off the top of my head that's different than that. But a synonym for devalue that's nicer. But the style of his defense, I think, devalues middle linebackers to a sense because they run so much nickel and dime. They have safeties in the box so often. So we're going to see, Derwin James. We're going to see Nasir Adelaide. We're going to see if they add any other safeties in the draft. We're 3-4 safety sets, a lot of corners, a lot of smaller speed guys. They already have Kenneth Murray, who's your freak athlete at backer. So yes, Micah Parsons off the field aside, phenomenal athlete, is going to be a tremendous linebacker in this league. Will be probably a top 5 linebacker in this league. I just don't know if he would fit anywhere. So I'm not saying he wouldn't fit, but I don't know if they need to spend that kind of capital on a guy that really, for a position that this defense, I don't think values as much. So
now
I'm not putting you down.
I'm so glad someone else said it. So glad someone else said it.
As a rebuttal,
please.
I got a chance to talk to Micah Parsons. I've watched his tape. I've looked at his history. He played defensive end in high school. He has a ton of experience as a defensive edge rusher, and he could play that position. Do I think that he should go to the Chargers and be their middle linebacker? Absolutely not. Do I see him coming to the Chargers as like a Clay Matthews, as like a Von Miller type of player? Absolutely. That's who I would want him to be. I want him to be all over the defensive line. I don't want him to be the middle linebacker. Kenneth Murray is that. If he comes to the Chargers, he would be kind of like the Derwin James of the linebacking core, where he can go sideline to sideline. He can rush the quarterback. He can be in coverage. I know we're kind of honing in on Micah Parsons. I think folks are overlooking his overall ability, not just as a middle linebacker, but as a playmaker. And you hear Brandon Staley talk about it. He has edge players. He wants playmakers. There isn't the inside, the outside linebacker edge. It's just edge players. And to me, he would be an edge player.
Well, that's true. He's like the Isaiah Simmons of this year's draft from Clemson last year, kind of a do-it-all guy. So yeah, and you're absolutely right. And like I said, if the Chargers take him, I'll stand on the table. I think at 13. So okay, last thing I'll ask you guys with the draft here. And then we'll wrap this up. Had a lot of fun so far talking to Dan Wolkenstein and Jake Hefner of the Chargers Unleashed podcast. But so let's say, because there's going to be guys that fall every year. We all do all these mock drafts. I feel like a lot of mock drafters kind of, I don't want to say copy each other, but I was talking to Tony Paulin, and he calls it a paralysis by an over analysis. It's just so much analysis, you get paralyzed almost, and everyone just kind of starts copying the same thing. You just see these 1 through 25 mocks that are literally like almost identical with a few players. So players are going to fall. It's going to happen. Quarterbacks are going to run off the board at a high rate. So let's say at 13, I don't think this is going to happen. Let's just say Sewell or Slater falls. J.C. Horn falls. Micah Parsons falls. and one of the receivers falls. So either whether it be Waddle, it's definitely not going to be, definitely. But let's say it's either Waddle or I'm drawing a blank on his counterpart at Alabama, Devontae Smith. Yeah. So let's say one of the two Alabama receivers. Okay, I won't go. We can't go that extreme. We can't go Micah. So let's go one of the two Alabama receivers, one of the top tackles, and one of the top corners. So let's do that. That being said, now, so you have those three options. Who are you taking, Jake?
Oh, if the Chargers had a chance to get one or the other between Sewell and Slater, there's no contest there at all. The person who's running the card up to turn it in with his name on it should be immediately promoted to something else just for doing that. That's how much weight that pick would carry if either one of those guys was on the board at that point in time. Not a difficult decision for me at all.
Dan?
I would think about it. And the only person in that list that I would be thinking about it would be J.C. Horn. Mm-hmm. And if a J.C. Horn or a Patrick Surtain are available, and I'm having to pick between them and someone like a Slater, I probably would go Slater, but that would be a tough decision because you know how much of a stud corner both guys are going to be, and you're not going to get anybody like that in round 2, 3, 4. Now, granted, you won't get like that. You won't get anybody like Slater in round 1 either, but there's no way Sewell's going to be there. Slater, maybe. I probably am going Slater, but it would be a tough decision.
Yeah, it's tough. I would go tackle too. And that's just, again, my man crush with Brandon Staley, and I think what he can do with that secondary, Ronaldo Hill, what he can do with that secondary, I think they can use lesser talent, lower draft picks, and still get a great result. And I love Frank Smith, the Chargers' new offensive line coach. We had him on our show a few weeks ago, or I guess a couple months ago now. And he's a tremendous coach, but you still need the big dogs up front to coach. And right now they're just lacking that, running into the season with Trey Pipkins and Storm Norton as your starting left tackles. I don't know if that's where you want to live in a world. And obviously they would still take someone later on in the draft. So interesting. I always love it. I love talking draft. We've been we've probably been doing draft stuff since the Chargers didn't make the playoffs, probably since January, right? Is that when you guys started doing your analysis?
I've been wanting to do it since November, but I had to just pull the reins back because I was tired. I was sick and tired about talking about the Chargers losing in the same fashion week in and week out. I just wanted to talk about something else.
Yep.
We were 3. The Chargers were 3-9, and Jake was already in draft season. And I was thinking, man, I'm telling you, I want the Chargers to go 4-0. I want to see it happen. And Jake was already thinking, like, no, you cannot do this to me in my draft board. Do not do this. And I said, look, Justin Herbert's success is more important. Sure enough, we go 4-0. Jake is miserable for a month. And he had to take away all of the top 3-5 picks that we got to get. Now we're down to 13. But I still think we're getting a great stud at 13.
I didn't even really think about this till right now, but can you imagine if they would have lost out now that we know what happened and they fired the coaching staff anyway? If they would have lost out, they would have been sitting there probably at 3. So either they would have been at pick 3 with their pick the litter because they're not taking a quarterback, or they could have done this trade with the Niners and gotten 2 first-round picks, all this capital to move to 12, which is still a pick higher than they are now. Can you imagine living in that world right now?
I can imagine it, but unfortunately, Dan's voodoo Harry Potter hex just completely changed the fortunes there.
Where would you rather be?
I'm so sorry, Chargers fans. I'm so sorry.
Not that it matters because we can't do it, but Jake, where would you rather be staying at 3, or would you have rather done that trade and be at 12 again?
Just even being in the top 5, just having options. We were fortunate enough to get our new franchise quarterback last year, and in a year where quarterbacks are at a huge premium this year, I would have loved to be at least in the top 5 to where, you could trade down to the teens and acquire some more picks, whether it be second rounders, third rounders this year, first rounders next year. We could have done that. And not to say that we're not going to get a stud at 13, because I still think that we will, but it's just another avenue for you to do. So now your chances of trading down, which have never been good anyways, but the chances of trading down and possibly acquiring more picks are even that much lower. Your pick of the litter, as far as who's going to be there at 13, who you really want, is obviously now in question with a lot of the moves that the teams have done ahead of you. So again, the Chargers options have just been limited based off of where they're at from 4 stinking games.
And Jake, and I will say, Jake is understating how excited that he would be. If the Chargers were at 3-5 and they traded down, Jake would be doing backflips through his entire house, because give Jake the opportunity to have 3 potential first-round draft picks plus something next year. Maybe we have a second round additionally. That is the dream for Mr. Jake Hefner. He has always been pounding the board for the Chargers to trade back, and it hasn't happened, and we would love to see it. That would be, but again, we're neither here nor there. We won those past 4 games. Jake cried, Jake had a drink, and now we are at 13.
Yeah. Well, I'm a glass half full guy, and I think this team I think they're going to be a playoff team next year. But if they had 2 more first round picks the next 2 years, then you're just building on to make Super Bowl runs here for the foreseeable future. But hey, I think they'll be okay anyway. They do have quite a few picks in this draft. I was shocked last year when they traded up. I mean, Tom Telesco just sits chalk. He never moves anywhere. So when they traded up for Murray, I was like, wait, the Chargers are on the board again? When did this happen?
We never know what Tommy T is going to do.
Yeah. So April 29th coming up. We're less than 3 weeks away. So excited. I think we have stuff in the works for all of us to do some cool draft stuff potentially. So we'll be obviously letting everyone know about that. Before I let you guys go, Dan, let's tease your first episode a little bit. So talk to everyone about the first Chargers Unleashed episode. I don't know if we have a time yet, but just, what's that episode going to be that people will be looking forward to?
Yes. So we have been in full-on draft season, full-on draft mode for what feels like forever now. And this is probably the most fun that we are having. And we have an amazing special guest. Trevor Sikkema from the Draft Network has come on to our show. We had an amazing conversation with him. We're going to be releasing it next week early on. He talks everything Chargers. He talks everything the draft. He talks Game of Thrones, you name it. He goes in the weeds on the Chargers options. And I will tell you, I guarantee you will learn something with discussion. If you do not learn something, I'm sorry, but you are lying because you did.
You're just not listening. You're just not listening.
Oh, you're not listening.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to the drop. You'll be able to find that everywhere you get podcasts. You'll be able to find it on LAFBnetwork.com on their show page, Chargers Unleashed. Gentlemen, excited about the future, excited about what we're building together, excited for your show to begin and be working with you. And thanks for jumping on with me on the LA Football Pod. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Been awesome.
Excited for it.
Jake, where can everyone find you out on the socials?
At Jake T. Hefner on Twitter.
Any relation to the late great Hugh?
I've been getting that since the 2nd grade. And the last name actually only worked for me in one scenario once with dropping it and me correlating my relationship to him. Ever since then, it hasn't worked. But one time it did, and it was actually very beneficial.
I want to know who in 2nd grade knew who Hugh Hefner was.
It was a substitute teacher. It was a substitute teacher calling roll, and she was literally going through all the names.
That doesn't fly.
And literally just read my name, didn't even give me a chance to say, hi, I'm here. She just kept reading it. I don't think she actually thought that that was a real name or a real person. I thought she either misspelled it or that it was a typo or whatnot, but she just said, Jake Hefner, okay. And then just kept going. I was like, yo.
It's probably because that's the one day you went to class wearing a bathrobe and stuff, and she just knew. And that's why I was.
Yeah, the mom didn't know I was sneaking the stogies in my backpack. Yeah. So
there you go. Okay. All right. No relation, but we can say it is. So Jake T. Hefner on Twitter. Dan, where can the people find you?
I'm on Twitter at Chargers Homer. I'm trying to be optimistic when I can, try to balance out the pessimism that I have.
That's an understatement.
But no, we have fun. We're so excited to join the network and to think this is just the beginning. It's going to be a fun ride. Can't wait to be on with you.
Absolutely. So super stoked. Dan Wolkenstein, Jake Hefner. Fellas, appreciate you. Stay healthy, stay safe out there, and excited to keep building this thing up. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Same to you, Ryan. Thanks so much.
All right. Huge thanks to Dan and Jake. We are extremely excited to welcome them on the LA Football Network and just what we're going to build and create. So as I mentioned before, obviously Frostee and I are still doing this show, the LA Football Podcast, covering all 4 teams. Jake and Dan will have the Charter specific show. So just for those Charter fans listening, if you want more content, they got just the Chargers covered for you. So a lot of fun with them. They're awesome guys, good people. And they live here right in LA. So they got their finger on the pulse, like I like to say, like we do here at the LA Football Network. So a lot of fun. Today's show, one of our other sponsors, brought to you by, I don't know if you're sunglasses people out there, but it's bright. It's always summer here in LA. If you haven't heard of them, look up Kanon and make your outdoor experiences better. Kanon, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Sunglasses are made exclusively with polarized lenses for optimal clarity. They're made with Japanese optics, makes their lenses clearer, lighter, stronger, and Italian handcrafted frames, which are impossible to scratch, which is kind of crazy to think about. I use Von zippers and they are scratched the hell out of. So I guess Canon has come up with some technology that is scratch proof. That alone is worth it. Use the exclusive code CanonCast15. I'll spell it in the description. CanonCast15 at Canon.com to receive 15% off on your first pair. That's CanonCast15. Once again, I'll spell it in the description. 15% off your first pair at Canon.com. Canon, clearly better. All right, so that's the show for today. Thank you all for tuning in. Frostee will be back with me next episode. We have a great guest lined up. I'll tease that for you. I never say the name because it just means you got to tune in. But we got a great guest lined up. We have two guests next week's coming on to be excited about. Rams fans, don't worry, I haven't forgot about you. Our guest is a Rams. I'll just say it's for the Rams. We'll tease it at that. So you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Dyrud, LAFB, the main account at LAFB Network. We are everywhere you listen to podcasts. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Helps us out. Also on YouTube at LAFB Network. Check out our awesome new overlays here as we're working with a great company called Brinks. So check that out on YouTube at LAFB Network. All of you guys have a wonderful weekend. It is Friday, so enjoy that weekend. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll talk to you all next week.